Mr. Kabrowski and Mr. Werman sit on this committee, and all members may participate. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dykes for an update to address the special source revenue credit in multi-county industrial park. Sorry.
Hey, look, I gotta swim them when I can.
Chris, I cannot find your folder. I cannot find your folder. Where's our folder? Like our council folder that like. Usually there, but like I don't see the folder that I put the stuff in. No, it's not there. Oh, here it is. Sorry.
Madam Vice Chairman, members of council, thank you for the chance to be here and just to do what will be a brief update this afternoon on our progress on this particular subject. Starting back in the January timeframe, I was tasked by the county attorney to explore the use of financial incentives that we commonly use in economic development for affordable housing, and specifically these are MCIP, which is Multi-County Industrial Park, and SSRC, Special Source Revenue Credits. And basically the two questions I was asked to explore are, can they be used legally in the state of South Carolina to support affordable housing? And then secondly, if so, what would be required in our context here at Charleston County? So we got together on a team that included the county attorney, our outside attorneys, Sam Howell and Robert Nettles from Howell, Linkus and Nettles, the DCA for Finance, the DCA for Community Services, and have kind of marched through an analysis of this. What we have found is that, yes, the legal basis is well established. There are precedents that have been set in Richland, Greenville, and Spartanburg. And you might ask, what's the purpose? Why would you use these incentives? Basically, the way they've been used is kind of a mirror image of what we do in economic development. And in this case, however, it would be to take a housing pro forma that has an overall deficiency. In other words, it has, it's in a situation where a developer is not going to push forward with it because the margins aren't quite right. And it would help push that kind of a project over the top, if you will, by reducing the property tax burden in a targeted kind of way. So if you can think about what it would mean to discover what a gap is in a pro forma and then very surgically use incentives to fill that gap, spending as little public money as possible while enabling the developer to move forward. So that's the way we have seen it used in the three counties I mentioned at the top. As we looked into it further, we found that all three counties have established policies and created systems by which to consider and evaluate affordable housing projects that are requesting financial incentive assistance. These discussions started with my three economic development counterparts from those three counties, but they branched out into numerous other phone calls and even a couple of face-to-face meetings with the housing agencies in those counties, the city and county executives in those three places, and also the paid consultants for one of those counties. So we got what I feel like was a pretty good picture of the way that all works in the three counties. The key elements in those counties seem to be that they all have adopted a housing plan. They've determined their housing goals, and by that I mean desired AMI ranges that they want to attract, housing type priorities, geographical preferences in some cases, and then other considerations that may be specific to each of those 3 counties. And then furthermore, they have put capacity in place to receive, analyze, and evaluate proposals. In some cases, that's taken the shape of a full-time agency staff. It's in many cases in those 3 counties, the duties are spread out over several entities, meaning that the housing agency might be the initial recipient of a deal, and they might help to vet that, and then they pass it along at some point to the county and the city, who weigh in. And of course, the county and the city have to collaborate on the incentives. But we saw all that in play, plus we saw third-party expertise. So in some cases where counties didn't have the internal experience, financial experience, which is pretty specific experience, they would farm that out to a third party. So we've seen all of those things in the 3 counties. As far as the question of a multi-county industrial park, in reviewing what we have now, we've been in business with Colleton County for 30 years now, or 25, with somewhere upwards of 150 businesses that we've put in that multi-county park. That multi-county park, among other things, supports 2 different SSRBs that were done over the years. One that supported the road construction up at Palmetto Commerce Park, and a different one that was enacted in order to help expand the van plant, Mercedes-Benz vans. So in our analysis of all this, the finance department and the CFO were pretty adamant about the fact that it was not going to be good to mix and match housing with industry in a situation where you already have bonds that are fed by the revenue from the first MCP. So I think it was a pretty easy foregone conclusion once we talked about it that you would need to have a new MCP formed dedicated exclusively to housing. And what I can tell you is that we, in doing that kind of planning, we already know we can anticipate support from the 3 largest municipalities because they have frankly all been in touch with us on this same subject, wondering, are we going down this road, wondering when will we have these tools available. So we think we'd be successful in their buy-in. I think the other thing is we took the liberty of talking to our partner county, Colleton, about the idea of a second industrial park, and we seem to have struck a chord with them too. They have housing issues down there, not so much affordable as building initial generations of housing. So they were interested in what we had to say, and they'd be interested to work with us on formation of a new one. So I think what I can tell you is that in terms of time frame, we would need to have a direct tasking from council to go further with this, but we think we could get it done in about 3 months, the formation of a new one. And I think what I would tell you in closing is that I think that these are 2 very valuable tools. I don't think they're by any means a panacea to everything that we would need in the affordable housing game. And I think it's safe to say we're at the early stage of our learning curve as to what these other resources might be. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Vice Chair and Chairwoman of this committee, let me thank you for convening us today, and certainly excellent information coming from Mr. Dykes, and particularly based on our Housing Our Future plan. We do have a plan. We do recognize that based on the information that you provided tonight verifies that those entities, particularly that are doing this, based on their success, they have those elements in place, and the recognition that it's not reinventing the wheel. This has been done other places. We can study it. We can scale it based on our interest here in Charleston County, and there's an appetite, for the county being a convener, apparently based on your research, based on municipalities being interested in allowing, some other entity to convene everybody. So I think overall, it sounds like a win. And surely when we're looking at different buckets and pots of money and funds, there's no one stream that will fix any of this. Certainly, I know we hear people talking about, a bond referendum and this, that, or the other, without even raising tax. We've always contemplated using existing revenue sources that are already streams in the county that could be repurposed, redirected, or more intentionally focused surrounding this issue of affordable housing, and definitely with your leadership talking about these revenue credits and looking at how some of the collateral potential investments from these multi-industrial parks could also help add to the housing products that we, can produce in Charleston County. It's a crisis, and we're not going to solve it overnight, but it sounds like a pretty good start to me, based on all of the pieces that we are now learning that can be added to this puzzle. So thank you very much. And not a question, but just a celebration of what I'm hearing.
Anybody else?
Well, I'll join the celebration, but I do have maybe a couple of questions. Again, thank you, Mr. Dykes, for working on this. Thank you to our legal staff, our financial staff, and really everyone who's worked at putting this together. I do think it's great. We need as many tools in the toolbox as we can get. It sounds, again, when you talk about the pro forma and you're just trying to kind of cover the gap, it sounds like functionally providing a similar function to gap financing, which I think we've already started down that road. And to the extent this is a way of garnering more resources to that purpose, I think that's great. I guess in bringing that comparison, you mentioned that, some other counties set goals in terms of AMI type location, that sort of thing. How does that, how do you functionally do that? Is that something that would be incorporated into this process? Should you move forward, or is that, how does that fit into the process?
I think the way we've seen it done in the three counties I've talked about is that they've come together on policies that are based on their plan. So in other words, their plan, painted the broad panorama and captured all the needs, and then they honed in from that on what was most precious in terms of what level of housing, for what AMI group, what's the most important, followed by what's the second most important, and then they've kind of come up with a policy where they allow, robust incentives for the one you need the most, and maybe less so with the second one. So it's kind of a pyramidal type approach, which seemed pretty intelligent.
Okay.
And that's going to be specific to each county and just what they have going on and where. I talked about geographical preference for a minute, and what I'm talking about there is City of Spartanburg, or Spartanburg County, does affordable housing in downtown Spartanburg, which is a deliberate attempt to have workforce and not only attainable housing, but affordable housing in downtown Spartanburg for the sake of everyone that lives and works there, from paramedics and police and teachers to restaurant workers. So we've seen that too.
Okay. All right, I guess. So you'd mentioned that Colleton was generally on board. Do we have to come together and have sort of a meeting of the minds in terms of what all of that looks like with Colleton County for this to work, or they can operate on sort of parallel paths?
Well, we will have Colleton firmly in the know when we get an entire ordinance panned out. But the steps that come before that have to do with some internal thinking about the percentages that we would try to dictate or dedicate. And then once we're agreed upon that, we would preview it with the three cities. Then we would get it in ordinance form by the attorneys and present it for discussion with Colleton. So,
okay.
But I can tell you, Colleton is very supportive of the idea. They understand where we're coming from.
Well, that is certainly encouraging. I guess so. You mentioned you need council action to proceed, correct?
Right. We did not feel comfortable going any further than we have with it without a specific directive.
And so would the directive be to prepare an ordinance and bring that back to council? Is that the next step, or is there something else.
I
I'm
believe
trying to
it-
tee it up for you.
I believe if you gave us that directive, and I'm going to look at the county attorney as I say this, I believe that would be sufficient to have us go do the litany of things that are involved with that.
All right. Well, I would move, and certainly happy to have some discussion on this, but I would move to direct the county attorney's office and economic development and the rest of county staff to work on an ordinance to be brought back to the county council for approval pursuing this plan.
Second.
Chairman, I still wanted to ask some questions. Is it too late to ask questions?
No, this is going to be for discussion, but it's been properly moved by Mr. Werman, and who seconded? Reverend Middleton. Thank you. For discussion, yes, Mr. Gabrowski, Mr. Pryor had his hand up.
Oh,
I'll come
go
to you
ahead.
next.
Just a quick question. So is this for rental units as well as home ownership?
Yes, sir, I believe it could be for any of it. I really think it could be single-family owner, homeowners and rental. It's both done in the other counties.
So with the rental, I guess something would have to be worked out if we're going to give them a tax incentive. They would hold the rent at a certain price until that incentive runs out. Is that what we're looking to do?
Yes, sir, it is. The way we've seen it done in those counties is that there's a system set up where you've got an office, one of the offices, and I think in Spartanburg, for example, I believe it's the housing office that monitors this, but they track the various units, and they track the rent that's charged and paid, and they qualify the people, as being eligible to be in those units in the first place. And then if there's any kind of interruption or cessation of the rental units by the developer, then the incentives get pulled back or discontinued.
Thank you.
Mr. Gabrowski.
Thank you for your hard work and all the time and energy. My first question would be, I listened very carefully to what you said about the gap coverage and how you want to fill in to provide the incentives for contractors and development so they can make enough money to do it. And my question is, wouldn't all of us here, work for a living, or in every entity or person who provides services for the county would want similar things? I mean, and who objectively determines at what point it's enough or what profit they should have? Is it our job to, any human being is going to incentivize, so they're going to say, yes, of course, I need more money to finish it. Any human being would do that. Who's objectively going to do that? Is it our job, and at whose expense do we ensure the profits of contractors and developers? Is it just their word that I need more money to incentivize to complete this? At what point do we objectively determine that? And again, I heard you, where does the money come from to provide the extra profits for these entities to do what they're doing? And the third question is, as I drive to work every day across town, I see how the city of Charleston, the peninsula, has been transformed in the last 2 or 3 years. And is that with monstrous big box buildings everywhere you look? And as I understood, that the developers and contractors there had incentives to put in some affordable housing. In return, they're able to build up and out to now we look like Hoboken or Jersey City. Is that what you have in mind? I'm just trying to understand where all this is going and who provides the extra profits for these businesses, and how can we then say to other service providers to the county that, we provide these essential services to help take care of people, and aren't they also entitled to more? Who determines that?
These are excellent questions, and I think they're really ground floor philosophical questions that have to get sorted out before we get started. And I think that takes the shape of policies that are established, goals that are established, and then I think you have to have criteria. You have to have criteria for eligibility that would keep that type of effect from occurring. I do agree with you that if everybody thinks they can get it, why wouldn't they step up? So that's got to be guarded against. I will tell you that I think as I think Donald Rumsfeld once said, we don't know what we don't know right now. And I think what will come as time goes on with the maturation of our community development department will be that we'll have the expertise in some form or fashion, folks that have done this, to advise us as to how to set up those rules of the game and how to guard against that type of abuse. Because
Where would the money come to guarantee these profits that the contractors and developers say that
well,
they
it's
need?
really the same principle that we've used for industry, where if we make up our minds to help with site deficiencies on an industrial site, What we will do is do SSRC, which is basically tax rebates back to the taxpayer to apply toward that need. So this would work the same way. We would be backing into a figure that's been established and it's been thoroughly vetted by housing experts, financial experts, that this is the gap.
And the
And then-
rebate would be to those to the developers or contractors. Is that what you mean by the taxpayer?
Right, yeah, in this case, it would be a developer. So we would basically be backing off of the property taxation on that particular affordable housing development so that that money could instead be applied toward the gap that's keeping the development from going forward.
Same theory be applied that every entity that supplies social services to feed or house people, or social services to vendors to the county?
That I can't answer.
Mr. Kabrowski,
I
first off,
understand.
I'd like to give an example that would help maybe everybody understand. There is a particular apartment complex that's purchased by a new developer. That apartment complex currently exists as affordable housing. It's rental units at this time. And once the developer purchases it, at the time of purchase, there's a new assessment. And so he gets his new tax bill, and instead of it being $600,000, now that tax bill is just $2 million because it's been reassessed at the point of sale. That developer cannot continue to offer those apartments at the rate they're being offered because he can't afford it. His pro forma does not work. And therefore, he could, if we put in this type of system, come to the county and say, I will keep this set of apartments affordable so that folks can, afford to live in this area. We're not going to make them move out because rents are going to skyrocket. If it meets certain criteria, for instance, its proximity to transit, that type of thing, it scores higher. We would have a system in place to actually score the projects that come forward like this, and we could offer that incentive so that he can keep those rents affordable. If we don't, those just go to market rate rents, and the folks that live in that community have to all move out because they won't be able to afford those rents. That's what we're trying to implement.
Effort, just a brief response to that. I just remember when I went door to door campaigning for this, and you ran into all the people that just moved here, their homes are reassessed, and so those who aren't given affordable housing rates, their rates are going to skyrocket because it's not, baked into it has a new tax rate. So for all those who aren't going to access or have their affordable housing, it's going to cause other people's are not limited. They're not going to have the advantage of being limited in their taxes as the contractors or developers. Home buyers are going to have this facing the exact same situation that you described without our intervention on their behalf. That's just my observation. Thank you.
And I think the policy of council, certainly in the plan that we adopted, has been to look at where the greatest needs are, which right now are the missing middle, our firefighters, our teachers, our law enforcement, that simply can't afford that market rate housing. And so this is an opportunity for us to explore what we can do and how we can be a part of that solution so the people that serve us can continue to live in and around our community. And I understand it's going to require a lot more honing, and I think part of this directive to staff is to go back and really sharpen our pencils and figure out how we can make it work and what the priorities are going to be and help council develop the policy surrounding that. Are there any more questions or discussion on the motion that's currently on the floor? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank.
Sounds like we have 7 ayes and 1 nay, 1
There are
absent.
only 5 people on the committee.
Well, my apologies, we only have the committee. Thank you. This will move on to finance. I think we have 3 yeses and 1 no.
The chairman, yeah.
I believe that concludes our meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to convene our Finance Committee agenda. Excuse me. Agenda item 1, 2023 Metro Leadership Visit, request for approval. Moved by Mr. Pryor
Yes.
and seconded by Reverend Middleton. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Second item, special source revenue
Move to
credit
approve.
Committee recommendation.
Second.
by Mr. Pryor and seconded by Mr. Middleton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay. Can we go to the public hearing?
Yes, sir, we can do public comments now. We've only got 1 minute.
Okay, let's do public comments first, then we'll do our public
Was a
hearing.
no on that last item.
What was that? Was that the last
It
one?
was the special
Same
source.
thing. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
wasn't sure, and thank you for
Yes, sir.
We go first, because she's at,
Sure.
she's at least, so could we do?
Certainly.
County councilman answer, suspend it, let her get up there.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pryor. We are going to begin our county council meeting, and we will have our recognitions and resolutions, and then we will convene back to the public comments. So I'm going to start this county council meeting with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we are today asking for your wisdom and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion so we may make good decisions for our county. Please watch over our employees and first responders, including EMS, sheriff, fire, and rescue, as well as those that protect our nation. Amen. Please stand. Mr. Smalls, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
Freedom of Information Act.
Move for approval.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meetings were posted and agendas were distributed to news media and persons requesting notification.
Recognitions and resolutions, Gullah Geechee Nation
Move for approval,
Appreciation
Mr.
Week.
Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pryor, seconded by Mr. Middleton. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Middleton, are you going to do the honors?
Come on up.
Come on
please.
down. Yeah.
Good evening to all, to our chairman, Mr. Sass, and to all members of the council. A resolution of Charleston County Council proclaiming the week of July 29th to August 5th, 2023 as Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week. Whereas Charleston County is one of the oldest counties in South Carolina, and in the 18th century, Charleston County, the South Carolina coast, became the locale of some of the richest rice plantations in the South, which were linked to specific West African ethnic groups who became known as the Gullah Geechee. And whereas the Gullah Geechee civilization originated in West Africa, it's people coming to the United States as slaves to work on rice plantations, specifically in the coastal regions, including South Carolina, and with their African fair original language and craftsmanship, the Gullah Geechee people left their mark on southeastern South Carolina. And whereas the Gullah Geechee culture has had a powerful impact on the Low Country South Carolina, including Charleston County, and these Gullah Geechee influences have helped to define our southern lifestyle and culture. Whereas the preservation and celebration of the Gullah Geechee culture has gained momentum due to the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act created by United States Representative James Clyburn, as well as the efforts of others such as Queen Quet, chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and Kwame Shah, co-founders of the International Gullah Geechee Nation Celebration and the annual Gullah Geechee Nation Music and Movement Festival. And whereas Queen Ket has served as the official head Kundabadi, all right, and spokesperson for Gullah Geechee since July 2nd, 2000, and whereas the 23rd anniversary of the Gullah Geechee Nation is being celebrated under the theme Celebrating Gullah Geechee Resiliency, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the importance of bringing awareness and appreciation for this rich culture and history in order to increase understanding of all the contributions of the Gullah Geechee cultural heritage have given to our area and the sustainability of the Gullah Geechee Nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Charleston County Council does hereby proclaim the week of July 29th through August 5th, 2023 as Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week in Charleston County, and encourages its citizens to celebrate the Gullah Geechee Nation under the theme Creating Gullah Geechee Resiliency, and support Gullah Geechee businesses and institutions. Given on this 18th day of July 2023, Charleston County Council, Herbert R. Sass III, Chairman. And to you, Queen Kat. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Let's give her a hand.
I get the photo out without you reading. Where's she going?
Thank you.
And I am able to code switch and speak fluent Gullah Geechee.
That's true.
Brother Pryor, that thing true? That thing that probably keep that story in. You ain't get a story
I
in.
told you I'd get you quick, ain't I?
Okay then. So, thank you one more again, Charleston County Council. So glad to be back here with Hunter Chiller this evening and things like that. And this evening, for the first time, my mama there with me too. Back on her back there. I wonder why you had your daughter to come up here every year for so long on these evenings here. So that's why I'm glad you said, it got you to the top agenda, right? I said, I hope so. So we can get back down the creek and down the road and things like that. But I want to say to all the Charleston family, please come down the creek and down the road and things like that in the Beaufort County, South Kakalaki on July the 29th. Because we can launch this year's celebration on St. Island at the Penn Center Landmark Historic District for the first time, which are also where we got the Reconstruction Era National Historical Park. And so we can start at noon. We plan to go until 4:30. That is PM, unless you bring a good dancing shoe, and then we might go to AM. Okay? So y'all make sure to come and join the whole family. Going to be plenty good time, plenty good thing for now, fun and thing like that. And we're so glad that one more again, Charleston to lead the way that in this year's celebration, because it started off right here. Okay, so this been the first city and the first county we're going to celebrate them. So thank you for continuing the whole country culture. And I must say this, y'all, and I can see them to the others that I'm overstanding. I appreciate the fact that you all made sure that the news would get to me about this here $100,000 or so dollars that, yeah, y'all know, right? But y'all ain't giving it to me. So I want it on the record that it's wonderful that the city of Charleston is going to lead the way with several discussions about our culture and history to be celebrated county-wide. So I really hope that this county is going to invest more, because $100,000 or $110,000 ain't going to get us very far. But I know that it's a blessing that you're going to do this, and all those libations and all these celebrations are not in vain. So I said that because I know some of the comers I didn't understand otherwise. So I want to make sure that they get that and get down the record. So I appreciate it. And I hope to attend some of those meetings. I won't be at all. But y'all know, call on me at any time. And I will help you with that process and bring in some of our folks from here to James Island and down Warmalaw, Eddystone, all of this show. So we can come together and celebrate who we be, that we be Gullah Geechee anointed people. So thank you, Charleston County.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. I'm going to suspend our county council meeting and move into public comments.
Public comments?
Public comments?
Okay. The first person on the list is Caitlin Cornwell Galouz, followed by Chris Drummond.
Hello, So this is my fourth time coming to ask for paid parental leave. In the past, I have shared the document signed by 108 county employees in support. I have shared numerous letters, handed up policies for places like MUSC in the state of South Carolina. And since my last time here, the College of Charleston passed a 6-week paid parental leave. The state again passed legislation for educators for 6 weeks of paid parental leave. And the city of Charleston has implemented a paid parental leave policy. Without paid parental leave, employees must save vacation days and sick days instead to start a family. I currently earn 3.08 hours in annual and 3.7 hours in sick leave per paycheck. Some people take their time off for much-deserved break from their high workload to deal with illness or address family emergencies. I have a coworker who has had multiple miscarriages and has never taken a sick day off because she's saving them for maternity leave. Another coworker of mine's last day is next Thursday. He's leaving because he wants a second child and doesn't have enough time saved up to do so. There is an employee in the solicitor's office who is out on parental leave right now with a newborn, and he's only taking 2 weeks off. That's the only time that he has accrued. No one should have to make these choices. I am an attorney in the public defender's office. My husband is a Charleston County school teacher in a Title I school. Both of us have chosen to forego higher salaries elsewhere so that we can serve the people of Charleston County. We don't have the income needed to take unpaid time off to care for a newborn. Many attorneys don't stay to work for the county for long because you can get better pay and better benefits elsewhere. My best friend gets 6 months of pay for each child at Volvo's legal department. I do love my job and I love serving the people of Charleston County. I'm not asking for pay and benefits on the scale of Volvo. I'm asking for support so that I don't have to choose between serving Charleston County and having a child. I am appreciative and thankful for the 4.5 pay increases for all county employees. I appreciate your work for making Charleston County go in the better direction. I just ask that you take this to subcommittee and please work to pass paid parental leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Drummond, then Rocky Burke.
My name's Chris Drummond, and I'm the uncle of Jen Drummond, who's left for dead on the road on Woodland Shores on Wednesday, June 21st. We're now 4 weeks since this horrific accident, and the sheriff's office has not made an arrest. For those of you who are not familiar with Woodland Shores Road, it's originally a neighborhood road, and the population has increased, and now it's become a major thoroughfare connecting Riverland Drive to Maybank Highway. The speed limit is posted at 30 miles per hour. County studies as of 2021 have found average speeds of 45 miles per hour, with some going over 54 miles per hour. 5 days after my niece was struck, a press conference was held, in which Ms. Honeycutt attended. The media noted that cars were zooming by despite having 4 police cars on the side of the road with blue lights on. I know you can't make the sheriff enforce the speed limit on Woodland Shores Road, but here's what you can do. You can lower the speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25. You could install speed bumps and possibly stop signs roughly halfway down Woodland Shores Road. Now, I'm sure staff's going to tell you why you can't do that. And I beg you not to get bogged down in bureaucracy or that of the DOT by preventing you from taking measures to slow traffic down with the ultimate goal of saving someone's life. I've also heard that we must take into consideration those people who use Woodland Shores Road but don't live on the road. This is a neighborhood road, and neighbors who live on this portion should be given a priority over those who use it. Let me be clear. Please do not think a proposed sidewalk would have prevented this accident. These are 2 separate issues. Jen was merely crossing the road to check her mail before starting her workday. Inaction on your part to lower the speed limit is not an option. This is not about my niece. This is about saving the next person, because it's only a matter of time before this happens again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, has a study been conducted? I know we probably have done all of that, right?
We had a public meeting, which Ms. Honeycutt attended, and
We did, the most recent traffic study was 2021, and I've asked for another one.
Rocky Burke, and then Lynn Mazzell.
Conclusion of the meeting? What was the conclusion?
That the study results did not warrant reducing the speed limit from 30 to 25.
So it would leave from our hands to whom?
Sorry?
DOT?
DOT probably, yeah.
To whom would we speak to DOT?
Our staff, I don't see Devery in here, but we've been working on this for some time. I don't see the engineers who did that work in here, but we're working on it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Burke?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of Charleston County Council and Charleston County staff. My name is Rocky Burke, and I'm here tonight to announce my candidacy for the Charleston County Sheriff's Office as a Republican Party member in 2024. I'll be bringing a combination of 49 years experience, training, and education in law enforcement, fire service, and emergency medical services to the Charleston County Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Lynn Mazzell, and then Pam Kessmitter.
Hello, I'm back again. Mosquito control does not want to do us right. I live in R5, and if anyone has been paying attention to the list that comes out daily, there's been a whole lot of CS1 to R5. They fly in, they fly out. Mosquitoes are just as bad the next morning as they were when they came out. For some reason, y'all not willing to help us out there. Our ditch is still a mess. As y'all recall, last month, I was called a liar about our ditch, saying our ditch has been catered to more than any in Charleston County. Our ditch still hasn't been taken care of. I've been asking for years. We have snakes in the ditch. When it's raining, when it's wet, we have mosquitoes breeding. We have 2 culverts on that street that are growing mosquitoes. We have a ditch behind our house. When it runs off, it sits on land. When it sits on land, it's breeding mosquitoes. We have animals. I have 1 fur baby that has a grade 4 heart murmur, and she also is in congestive heart failure. All of our animals are on heart guard and trifexas, but just like anything else, it's not 100%. We need help. Here's your stop sign right here, right? There's the top of it. You know how high the grass weeds are? Here. If you want to see the pictures, I got pictures. I took them yesterday. I mean, this is just, y'all just leaving us out there. Why are we paying stormwater fee if they're not going to clean our ditches? Come out and look at R5. Then I want you to leave my residence. I want you to go to OS1, where the, what do you call it? The Charleston County rodeo champ lives. His ditch is immaculate. Now, why is the rodeo champ's road looking better than mine?
Pam Kessmitter, Karen Oliver.
One more thing. Whoever had hands in this that refused to help us getting sprayed, y'all need a whole lot of Jesus. You really do.
Hi, I'm a former Charleston County school teacher, and I'm here to talk about library books in our school libraries. It was reported by the Post and Courier that 1 parent complained and 12 books were banned in Horry County. I would first like to make it clear, I am not interested in banning books. I want to also make it clear that I may be only one person tonight, but I represent endless amounts of parents unaware of this information, and I'm also speaking for our children. Our children are being exposed to things their brains cannot process, and it's taking their childhood away. Charleston County Library staff are responsible for the books ordered and displayed in our libraries. I'm going to give you a packet of all the information. I recently was at our library on Calhoun Street, and there were 2 adult books that were on display that were clearly pornographic. I'm going to give you a copy of the first page of those books. I cannot read it in public. I also recently learned my children were allowed to check out adult books with their library card. Hollywood protects our children more than our libraries do. If you have not read Steve Bailey's article, I have also given you a copy of that. He could not even print what is in these books. These books are in our young adult section of our library, which is recommended for 6th graders and ups. And I'm including the catalogs as well. Our libraries trust the publishers and other librarians to determine what is age appropriate for young adults and children. I'm asking you to please take a proactive approach to ensuring our children are not exposed to explicit sexual content in our libraries. We need policies to protect our children from the books described in your packet. We also need warning labels to identify books with sexual content. Thank you.
Karen Oliver, Patrick McAdams.
Did you give that to Ms. Worcester over there?
I'm gonna try to sneak a few extra seconds in. Again, I come to you last month. I'm gonna take this down. Last month, I came to you in reference to the Charleston County Housing and Redevelopment Authority's board. Again, a week after I left this meeting, I went to Brighton Place to one of the residents' meeting, and I brought a signage with me. They were not having a residents' meeting because the board member, one of the board members, Ms. Gonzalez, she is actually over the residents there, not voted in, but she was appointed to be that. And when one of the residents just passing through happened to see my signage, and I brought copies so you could have it, Ms. Gonzalez, she asked me, why do you have that about the pastor? I said, yeah, Mr. Sandino Moses would not meet with me even to talk with his pastor there to go over his own words. And one of the residents in the group started to say, well, they need to appoint, they appointed her as being over the residents and carrying forth residents' meetings, but it should have been the residents selecting the person themselves, not someone being appointed. And Ms. Gonzalez started to go off with profanities. She started fussing. Until one of the CCA workers came out of the office there to check to find out what was going on. She told her not to make yourself sick. And Ms. Gonzalez just continued to cuss. She did apologize to me at one point, but she continued to do the profanities. It was disgusting. And I asked you last month to do an investigation on this board and to do a reevaluation of your appointments to the people to the board. You may not care today, but one day you are going to get older. And we are talking about the elderly and the disabled. Mr. Boykin, again, we're listening, right? Now, it's not just Mr. Boykin this time. It's all of you. Listen. Now, I have a signed statement that I have notarized, giving my statement about what took place. Because I can stand on my word, unlike Mr. Moses. And I also have a copy of the picture, of the signage that I had also. Please look at it. Please.
We normally don't historically make comments after these things. What is our relationship? I just want to know, just to clarify in my mind.
We appoint the board.
I know we appoint the board, but after the board is appointed, then what? There's no additional...
Someone should oversee them. Some oversight should be there.
Well, they have I believe they have a director. Is that correct, Mr. Smalls? They have.
Yes, sir. In fact, Kristen Worcester and I met with their director earlier today to just talk about board processes and ensuring that their board is meeting in compliance with FOIA and things like this. They do have a vacancy, one vacancy?
Two vacancies. Mr. Sandino Moses' term is up. So is somebody else's. So they have two vacancies, and I did attend their last board meeting as well.
Thank you.
And their residents are appointed. They fill out an application just like everybody else. So any residents can fill out an application, and they have two appointees of residents.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir, we haven't been doing this, but would you state your name and address?
Absolutely. I'm Patrick McAdams, through 3069 Caspian Court, Mount Pleasant. So I'm part of a volunteer group that's focused on the Laurel Hill Parkway part of the Highway 41 plan. And during the recent Army Corps of Engineers 30-day comment period, we asked residents along the corridor to submit comments specifically about that part of the plan. And what we got back were over 2,200 comments that are in this binder, and we wanted to share them with you. So we just want to ask you to reconsider that portion of the deal and read through them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If there's someone I could give this to.
Richard Habersham, Katie Donahue.
Yes, my name is Richard Habersham. I reside at 2938 Bennett Charles Road in the Phillips community. First, let me thank the council and the staff for the work they did on the Highway 41 corridor. You know, when it first came out, we, the Phillips community, were going to be the brunt of that highway. But due to council and staff, Phillips is not going to be the only one to have the hardship. We all, everybody along that corridor, going to bear some of that hardship. I hear that everybody talking about Laurel Hill Parkway, but they're not going to destroy the parkway. It's going on the edge of the parkway. And the only traffic that those communities are going to get is their traffic. Phillips is still going to get the through traffic and the truck traffic. Park West and Doom is going to get their traffic, no other traffic. And that will take some of the traffic out of Phillips. You know, some of the comments I've been hearing about, but it's going to destroy the homes, going to destroy the parkway, wetlands. Highway 41 is wetland. From 17 to the Wando Bridge. You know, you'll have to destroy some wetland, but it's not going to destroy any homes. It's not going to make nobody's life any harder. Only way it'll make it harder if Philip get all the traffic. But if you spread the traffic around, I mean, everybody have to spread some hardship. We didn't create the traffic. Philip did not create the traffic. There's another development I hear that's going to come on 41, the Republic track. The developer said he's going to put 1,000 units just above where Lowe's, is at on 41. If you don't build a new highway, you're looking at over 2,000 more cars in the Phillips community. So I appreciate what y'all did on Highway 41 corridor. Stay the course. Don't change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Katie Donahue, then Jacqueline Brown.
Good evening. I'm Katie Donahoe. I live at 3050 Grape Lane in the Phillips community with Mr. Habersham. He is my neighbor. I have lived in Mount Pleasant since 1997 on the north end of town, so I've watched the progression of all these neighborhoods. As a horticulturist, an educator, and a real estate agent, I can see many sides of this, the environmental one, the community one, and then, of course, property values that are affected when highways and things like that come through. I understand my neighbors in Dunes West Park West don't want their property values affected, and I can understand that from a real estate standpoint. But as far as the argument about the park, we are talking about bringing a road around the edge of the park. 20 of 700 acres will be affected. It will route traffic just directly to the neighborhoods from where those cars originated. I think around 4,000, so if we're saying every house has 2 cars. Many have more than that if you've got driving kids like I do. So, you know, we're talking about a huge chunk of traffic just going where it came from, because Phillips is going to take the rest of it. We have new pending neighborhoods in our area, as Mr. Habersham spoke of. And lastly, I would just like to bring to everyone's attention that the environment in the Phillips community should be protected as well. On my personal 5-acre tract, I have a very rare synchronous firefly that's only found in the Congaree National Park and the Great Smoky Mountains. I have a world-renowned biologist, Lynn Faust, who has written a letter of support that this area surrounding my property and the Phillips community as a whole is full of very rare flora and fauna that should be protected, as well as the corner of the 700-acre county park. Thank you for your time.
Jacqueline Brown, Michael German.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Brown. I'm at 1805 Snowden Road. First, I want to say thank you to all the panels for your help for the sewer. We have been working on this sewer for quite some time, as you know. We've been coming here. I think our chairpersons Sammy German and Marilyn Waters, that's not here right now. I said, but they worked very hard along with our committee. And to Ms. Smalls, she did an awesome job with her colleague when she came down to our community to help us with the application. And I do have my sewer. So I thank you, and I thank everyone for helping us. And I ask that you continue to help us along the way. And I thank you for not turning your back on us, because this has been a long time coming. So I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.
Thank you.
Michael German, Kathy Landing.
Good evening, Michael German, 1707 Snowden Road, Snowden, South Carolina. I just want to kind of reiterate what Jackie just said in terms of thanking you for the work you've done so far with our Snowden Sewer project. A special thank you to Ms. Smalls and your staff for getting those people in close proximity connected in a short order. We want to thank you for that, and that work is well underway. Like Jackie just said, she is one of the recipient. Can't hear me? I'm sorry. She's one of the recipient of your actions. And I have to say thank you to your staff. You don't know I was there for working with us with the septic tank abatement program. We look forward for continuing that work to get those completed. Now to Mr. Sass. We do have some concerns, and that concern is a new concern, but it's an old one as well. You spoke briefly about the funds you're going to procure for the flooding on Long Point Road, but I need to make you aware that Snowden Road is affected and floods every time Long Point Road does. So I don't want you to, please, don't forget about us, the Snowden community, because the same problem exists for us in that area as well. So again, thank you for what you've done so far, and we look forward to continue working with you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Landing, Pat Brogmer.
Well, good evening, council members. My name is Kathy Landing, and I'm the State House Representative for District 80, which spans the entire 41 corridor, including the Phillips community, with whom I have met many times. I'm here to tell you why I think the Laurel Hill Parkway would be a costly and irreversible mistake. The road to compromise was intended to solve the 41 problem partly by creating a bypass of the Phillips community. We already have two bypasses of Phillips, Bessemer Road and Park West Boulevard, which was greatly improved last year and whose design can handle a lot of traffic smoothly. This morning, I timed the drive from the intersection at Dunes West Boulevard and 41 to 17 and 41 by using both Park West Boulevard and Bessemer Road. The difference is 1 minute and 45 seconds. So for a minute and 45 seconds time difference, you are currently on a path to spend about $30 million of taxpayer money, destroy 20 acres of trees directly behind many homes, and fill in numerous acres of wetlands. The engineers tell you that their regional traffic models say the intersection at Joe Rouse and 41 will fail without the parkway. They use 2040 projections of 20,475 housing units. But only 4,030 of those units, Dunes West and Park West, should be included in this study because of the very local nature of this road. And these neighborhoods are fully built out. All the other neighborhoods likely would never use Bessemer and would never need the new parkway. A big hardship for the Phillips community came several years ago when the red light was added at Joe Rouse so that traffic backs up in front of their homes. Town Council voted to extend the third lane south to 17 to alleviate this problem. We had the funding and the necessary right-of-way, and I did vote on that. The county stepped in and said, no, we'll do a continuous green light instead. That was 3 years ago, and the Phillips community and the rest of us are still waiting for that interim improvement, and I was told the town could have finished the road at least 2 years ago. The 4-3 plan will work for everyone and will be a win-win, and I ask you, when the Corps finishes their decision, to please reconsider leaving out the Laurel Hill Parkway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Brommer, David Speeden.
My name is Pat Broghammer. I live at 3545 Tumor Kiln Circle in Park West. I also support Kathy Landing's position. I don't feel that Highway 41 needs to be widened, maybe add some boulevard lights for lighting at night or something of that nature, but it doesn't need to be widened. I was on that road this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I waited exactly 2 minutes from Bessemer to get to 17. It was an easy flow, and it's not needed. I too am a realtor, and I had looked at some of the communities off of Highway 41 in Berkeley County. Most of those people are retirees. They're not in any hurry to come down 41 in Mount Pleasant. So I beg you to reconsider the widening of Highway 41 and the destruction of the Clean Water Act, which protects our wetlands. That is something that the Army Corps of Engineers is supposed to protect. According to the Supreme Court of the United States, as of May 25th, 2023, they evaluated the definition of the Clean Water Act as well as the United States waterways. So please take a look at that. But the Clean Water Act, CWA, is very important to us. Thank you.
Ma'am.
David Speeden, William Wells.
Good evening. My name is Dave Spedden. I live at 3429 Tumor Kiln Circle, and my comments are in regard to Highway 41 and the Laurel Hill impact. Like a classic novel that stands the test of time, the op-ed that was written in September 16, 2020 is a beacon of reason and simply makes too much sense. The person that wrote that op-ed was Kathy Landing, and she laid out a plan that helped compromise communities that were impacted by this, and I think it makes absolute sense. The one that's on the board right now is going to destroy 20 acres in Laurel Hill Park. I don't know how many of you live in these impacted communities, but maybe it's time to have these communities sit down and talk again and come up with a compromise that works for everybody. One that'll save the taxpayers a lot of money and have less environmental impact. So please consider the proposal that Kathy had put forth, and please reread her op-ed. It really makes a lot of sense, and it still does today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last one is William Wells.
Yes, thank you. William Wells, 3509 Claremont Street, Park West. I just wanted to add, I look at this Highway 41, if it needed to be expanded, which I don't believe it needs to be expanded much. They're already talking about a third lane. That's probably all it needs right now. And as far as Park West and Dunes West, we're the ones using most of those roads. We shouldn't be talking about Carolina Park and other neighborhoods down the road. They should be coming down 17 and going out 41 or getting on another thing. But my biggest thing is, to me, 41 is the emergency evacuation route. In an emergency, everybody's going to be getting out of town, and we're talking about throwing a sand pit on a golf course, maybe a big oak tree. Make people come off of 41, go through Park West, come back out, get back on 41 to get out of town. To me, it's just stupid. If a road needs widening, you widen the road. You don't start detouring around neighborhoods where everybody on the coast is going to be detouring to get out of Dodge. That's my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Is that it?
That's it for public comment.
Thank you.
Before we start, could you, if anybody brought things to give us, could you distribute that to the
Yes.
members? Thank you.
You want it now, or do you want me to distribute it after the meeting?
I think now would be okay.
I mean, this is
If
a,
it's just one book, we
Yeah,
just
it's
need to
just one
scan
book,
it and we'll
so.
send it to y'all tomorrow.
What, did she give handouts for everybody, or just, I thought there
no,
were...
this is just one copy, so I'll have to make copies. This is just one book. And
this is copies for everybody, but I can just give it.
Okay, you have a public hearing?
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on a zoning case, request to amend map 3.1.9 Mount Pleasant Overlay Zoning District, the comprehensive plan, and map 5.4 Mount Pleasant Overlay Zoning District of the ZLDR.
Is there anyone here to speak on this?
Did you want a presentation?
Oh, let's have a presentation. I'm sorry.
Good evening. This is a request, like Kristen said, to amend the Mount Pleasant Overlay District maps in both the ZLDR and the comprehensive plan in order to change the designation of parcel 580000007 and 008 from light commercial to commercial. In 2001, upon the adoption of the ZLDR, this property was designated as low-density suburban, which was renamed to R4, low-density residential, shortly thereafter. The Mount Pleasant Overlay District was originally included as an appendix to the UDO and was later incorporated into the ZLDR. In 2007, the Overlay District was further defined to include properties on either side of North Highway 17. In 2010, a rezoning was approved on parcel 007 to go from the R4 zoning district to the commercial transition zoning district. The owner was cited later that year for operating an electrical contracting company office out of the existing building without any permits, but later received approval and permits to formally establish Hattigan Electric. In 2014, the owner was cited for intensifying the business on that same parcel beyond the extent of what prior permits and site plan review allowed. The new proposed use is classified as electrical contracting as opposed to just office space. At that time, that use, electrical contracting, could be allowed by special exception approval in the CT, Commercial Transitional District. And the owner went through site plan review again and received that special exception approval for special trade contracting on parcel 007. Following that special exception approval on 007, the owner was cited several times for unpermitted expansion of the electrical contracting business onto the parcel ending in 008. In 2018, the owner and applicant applied for site plan review on both parcels with the intent of applying again for special exception for expansion onto parcel 008. But this process was never completed and the case expired. In 2021, the ZLDR was then amended to combine the commercial transitional zoning district with neighborhood commercial. Within the Mount Pleasant Overlay District, neighborhood commercial is known as light commercial. And this removed the ability to establish special trades contracting in the light commercial designation. And then in 2022, the owner was cited for unpermitted fencing and storage containers on parcel 008 and referred again to site plan review to discuss expansion onto that parcel. Staff notified them that due to the changes to the ZLDR in 2021, any expansion of the business onto parcel 008 would require a rezoning. There is an ongoing effort to update the Mount Pleasant Overlay District in coordination with the town of Mount Pleasant. And staff did recommend that the applicant work through that process. However, due to there not being a definite timeline for the completion of that process, the applicant has decided to move forward with amending the overlay district maps through these two amendment requests. This is where the subject property is located within the county. The future land use designation is just the overlay district. And this is the current zoning within the Mount Pleasant Overlay District. The subject properties do have direct frontage along North Highway 17. Parcels to the rear in red you'll see are designated commercial within the overlay district. Parcels to either side are light commercial. And then across the highway, parcels within the Sweetgrass Basket Special Consideration Area are within the village commercial area. The property is located in Flood Zone X. This is an aerial view to the north. I did want to point out, there are some high-intensity commercial developments, including Seals Boat Sales. Let me see if I can. Yeah, Seals Boat Sales over here. There's a gas station over here and another gas station over here. So there are several high-intensity commercial developments. Aerial view to the south. These are photos of the property. I do want to note that the property owner did clean up the violations on the property in order to move forward on parcel 008 in order to move forward with this request. This is an adjacent property to the west is a dental office. Adjacent property to the east is a single-family residence. And this is the view from the subject property of North Highway 17. The ZLDR states that comprehensive plan amendments may be approved if they're consistent with the plan and meet any one of these criteria. The applicant did submit a response stating that criterion D is met. Staff agrees that criterion D is met and finds that the request is consistent with existing development patterns in the area. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. Per the ZLDR text amendments must meet 3 criteria as listed here. And the applicant did state that all those criteria have been met. Staff finds that if the comprehensive plan amendment is recommended for approval, then the ZLDR text amendment would also meet the approval criteria and therefore should also be recommended for approval. At the June 12th Planning Commission, the Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval for both the comprehensive plan amendment and the ZLDR text amendment. At the June 12th Planning Commission, the owner and applicant spoke in support of the request, and then 2 people spoke in opposition. 1 letter of support of the request has been received. No letters in opposition have been received, and this request was noticed as required.
Mr. Chair, I noticed one dissent there from a member of the commission. Can you give us any as to the dissent? Just
It was, I believe, Commissioner Merlina Davis.
Right.
I don't believe there was any discussion around the dissent.
What were the 2 people who spoke then in opposition? What reasons did they give if they verbalized it?
I mean, I don't really feel comfortable putting words in their mouth. There is a recording of the meeting, and we can also provide you with meeting minutes. I do believe that one of those people may be here today to speak, but I would not feel comfortable.
Chance to speak, or is that time?
Yes, there's public hearing on
Okay.
this. This is just an introductory presentation.
What is, in layman's terms, the difference between light commercial and commercial?
Yeah, that's a great question. So light commercial is going to be really just that, kind of lighter intensity commercial uses. You're going to see things like maybe some light retail, but nothing like a shopping mall. Once you get into commercial, you're going to see a little bit more intense uses. Things like gas stations might be allowed, higher intensity retail. Light commercial is the equivalent of neighborhood commercial, if that makes sense.
The question would be, why do we have those in place to keep it a light commercial if they would then be ignored? Isn't that the purpose of having the regulations, is to enforce them? And my concern is of representing that area or going north. Many of us want to stop the development from going all the way to McClellanville. Isn't this how the creeping development happens? Then as this becomes filled from light to commercial, well, the place north of that then can say, well, it's already commercial, why can't I do it? And that could leapfrog all the way to the Georgetown County line. That's my concern, that it's a way to leapfrog, and then further north they're going to say the same thing, what's there, I want that, and that makes sense, and things have changed, just like the request in this, and that goes all the way. Where does it stop?
Property owners do have a right to request a rezoning, and we as staff have to process those requests. Per Chapter 11 of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations, particularly if there's a violation on a property, we are required to accept any sort of application in order to remedy those violations. And so that's what we've done here. Of course, it's the prerogative of council to take any action that they see fit.
Mr. Pryor?
So normally, we would have a listing of, what's permitted in the current zoning, and then what are their requesting in the new zoning. I didn't see that tonight. What's the reason for not having that up?
I don't have a reason per se. Joel, I don't know if you want to speak to
Well,
that.
that would have been helpful,
Right.
because we would have been able to see what's there now, what's being proposed, or what can come there. I mean, a gas station right next to somebody's home.
Table of uses
You know.
for each of those.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess this comes after, what, 2 weeks? And our public and planning works, it would be nice to have that information. So we can make
Absolutely.
a decision, but from my understanding, there's a resident right next to this, correct?
There is, yes, to the east.
And so, you know, I wouldn't be in favor of changing the zoning until I know what's gonna be next to it. If somebody says, what's to say he's not gonna sell the property to somebody else after it's changed the zoning, and it ends up with a gas station or something in there? Because all that would be permitted under commercial, correct?
I would have to look into that, but like you said, I can absolutely add that as a slide for our planning and public works
Yes.
committee.
I
believe it would if it was just
would be.
regular commercial, yes.
Right, and so, I mean, if this person is serious about maybe making some changes, maybe they might want to get with the neighbors and try to work out a PD. So that way, it could be only used for what they want versus it get changed to commercial and then it opens up the floodgate.
I was just going to ask Mr. Evans if he might cite a few examples of commercial versus light commercial to illustrate the differences of intensity.
Sure, yeah, I think that, well, the special trade contractor, the heavy intense uses like the gas stations, and that type of thing. Light commercial does not have those types of things in it. And we will have the list to council to comparison for the
If you
zoning.
send it before the meeting, would it be nice by an email so we can look at it and be prepared when we come
Yes, sir.
on before that meeting?
Yes.
I think that the light commercial, does that maybe have a restriction on the hours that people could?
I
could use
believe
it
that.
Versus the full commercial is more
Right.
24/7.
Yes, on some uses, I think there's hours also too, when the applicant went for the special exception, the Board of Zoning Appeals had the right to add hours, restrict hours, I guess. And I think they did in this case as well, yes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you.
We have 5 people signed up to speak
Okay.
on this. The first person is Fred Brown, and then Kevin Hadigan.
Right next door.
Fred Brown Jr., reside at 2946 North Highway 17 in Mount Pleasant. And I'm here to address this new comprehensive plan that's being discussed this afternoon on the merits of this is just taking away the residents' property and actually turning it all into commercial. This is like this was highlighted. The Charleston County zoning, they implemented this plan to give the right away so that they can actually carry out the commercial development and planning. And so from this point on, they're adopting this new commercial plan. The previous plan actually was comprehensive, was designed to protect and preserve the historical culture of the sweetgrass basket stands and the community and the residents, which is a part of the Gullah Geechee history, the corridor, which was put in place by Charleston County. So from this point on, 7 Mile and Highway 41 as part of this history. So Charleston County, again, the zoning, they turned this business idea into commercial. So the history culture doesn't seem to matter to the residents, about the residents and the people that actually resides there. We don't have the right in our own community to discuss what bills and what's not built there and consider it as something that we would like to accept there. So from there on, Charleston County zoning again went on. They don't touch Boom Hall. Boom Hall is a part of the same historical culture of what the Gullah Geechee is about and been protecting. But they have property just like Doom West, Highway 41 right there in Park West. They don't touch these areas. They stay particularly in zones where they can just take advantage of the poor, that are black particularly. So again, as Phillips, 7 Mile, Highway 41, and all these other communities, we need to come together and ask the planning board, the commissioners and zoning to consider, stop taking the property exactly from this particular residence instead of Boom Hall, Park West, and other areas where there's nobody actually living there but wildlife. So again, so we ask you all to consider this proposal again.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Kevin Hattigan, and then Brian Strickland.
Thank you, County Council members. Kevin Hattigan. I live in Owendale, South Carolina, 6063 Mossy Grove. Emily, thank you for your hard work. I appreciate it. And Joel. I have been in business for 18 years here in Charleston, serving our community, helping my neighbors, especially the Gilliards and Mr. Brown. We are a local electrical contractor. When I bought the property, the place hadn't been lived in for 15 years. I have renovated it. I have put buffers up. I have put $20,000 of fencing approved by Charleston County. I do sit on the Charleston County Board, helping the building department. I am a community member. I work hard. We serve our people, and anything I can do, I'm always there. I'm the first one there. The Gilliards almost burnt their house down across the street. God rest Mrs. Gilliard, she passed away last month. I was the first one there, rewired the house, had the fire department back there, and did the house over. All I'm asking for is to operate my business and have a building put up under the proper guidelines. And I have been going through this for some time. The application that did expire happened during COVID. Nobody was working, unfortunately. The county was really struggling. I was part of it. But that's why our reapplication came up. We cleared out some fencing that I put up because of theft, people walking through my property. Just wanted to make sure nothing got stolen. Thankfully, nothing did. The Gilliards kept a very good eye on my property to make sure nothing got stolen. With all due respect, I would do everything under the proper guidelines and develop it correctly with the building to operate my building and continue to serve our community. That's what I plan on doing. I've raised my kids here. My wife was born and raised here, and I have several people that have businesses in the area that we contribute to and help as well. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Brian Strickland and George Freeman.
My name is Brian Strickland. I'm the general manager of Guy C. Lee Building Materials at 2985. 31 years with the company. I just stand in support with Hattigan, Kevin tonight. The rest of the properties, county in the area are commercial. He's done a wonderful, wonderful job at keeping the place cleaned up. It's always mowed, clean, neat, and the parcel just trying to get to the right criteria so he can put a building up in the back so that he can manage of his products and what he has to bring in every day and ship out every morning in the trucks. He operates in the timely manner. He's not there in the mornings at 5 o'clock disrupting anything, and I stand in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
George Freeman, Eddie White. I did.
Thank you. George Freeman, 1450 Bowman Road, president of the Cage Organization. I also spoke, I was the other person that spoke at the Planning Commission about this issue. One of the reasons I have a great interest in this is years ago, I was one of the people that attended the meeting when you had the county, the town of Mount Pleasant, and the residents in this area that got together to agree to have a light type commercial in this area so that you would have things like insurance company, maybe small restaurants, those type things that would benefit the community. And everyone agreed to that, even the town of Mount Pleasant. But as usual, the town of Mount Pleasant wants to change the rule. And unfortunately, our planning commission must agree with them. But this would be a detrimental thing to the community. No one zones heavy commercial right next door to someone's home. I believe someone mentioned it already. If you sell, if this person gets heavy commercial, anything can come in there and nobody will be able to challenge it, because they will be authorized to put whatever they want there on the heavy commercial. This would be very detrimental to the resident that lives next door to him. I hope you take a look at that plan. Everybody agreed that this would be a community node. There's also supposed to be one in the 10-mile community. And I think Mr. Sass touched on it. The whole purpose behind these nodes was that we would not have something that looks like Myrtle Beach here in the Mount Pleasant area, that you would have businesses in one area, then you'd have a gap, then you'd have some businesses again, then you'd have a gap again. but these businesses would not be detrimental to the residents that live there. In this situation, we would create that situation. And since I did serve on the planning commission, this would be spot zoning, because this would be right in the middle of the light commercial. So you would put commercial right in the middle of the light commercial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eddie White, Anthony Bryant.
Oh, he needs to get in there.
My name is Eddie White, and I'm a dentist, and I've been there in my location for 25 years. It's right, it says to the west. It's actually going south on 17. It's 2829 Highway 17 North. I bought my place in 1997, and it was Ladd Upholstery, and to the best of my knowledge, it was the only commercial entity all the way to McClellanville other than the Seawee Restaurant. And I have a unique perspective. I was born on the Isle of Palms. I was the fifth house in Snee Farm. I lived in Los Angeles from the ages of 6 to 12. My father was a dentist, and I have seen growth, and it is appalling what's happened to our beautiful town and landscape. I'm proud of Mount Pleasant because the people in this room here care, both the business owners and the residents. And I do think that Kevin Hadigan is a sterling example of a business person. I have been so impressed since he bought the house that hadn't been lived in forever and the lot beside me, which had a house that I think was over 100 years old. I found a screwdriver, and I swear I think it was 150 years old. This area is amazing that we live in. We're in a Gullah Geechee corridor. Miss Lucille just passed away. We have baskets in my office from her. And I am very proud of Kevin and his business. You can have businesses that abut houses and do it responsibly, and he is going to do it responsibly and has done it responsibly. Light commercial is news to me. When I bought my office, I was positive it was general commercial, and it was red when I bought it. I was amazed to hear that I'm light commercial. I don't plan on, my daughter just joined my dental practice. I don't plan on selling. I don't think she does either. But I can't believe I'm light commercial. And Seals Outboard has taken over the property next to me, and it says light commercial. It's full commercial. I'll guarantee it. It's where their boats are stored. Kevin Hadigan is an amazing person. He runs a hell of a business. He employs over 40 people, and I support him fully. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate y'all giving your time to the public service.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie.
I normally don't get involved in business without permission, but I did make Anthony G. Bryant, President Bryant Group, Inc., Public Policy and Land Use Consultants, and I did make public comment to the Army Corps of Engineers, 00205. And the reason why I did that is because I think that we are, passing the buck a little bit. The federal government plays a major role in issuing these permits. DHEC does as well. And maybe your negotiations may be a little stronger in terms of negotiating with these federal and state entities. We do pay a lot of taxes in Charleston County. I think we deserve to have some respect. And I think basically that a lot of the issues we're talking about is permitted issues. They're not really issues of land use and zoning, because under federal law, really, since the 1920s, you can't really do much with local zoning issues, frankly. They have their power under the Constitution. I just firmly believe in my approach to the matter was you can't allow people to have their dissenting points of view investigated. Now, you can't have a sheriff or a solicitor or somebody that may have interest in something that may don't like what you're saying at this dais right now, and investigate you, observe your behavior, surveil you, or even arrest you. There's no law against that in South Carolina. The Department of Justice has that law, though, but you don't. So I'm deeply concerned about the virtual that's taking place on these issues in land use, and possibly people having indirect initiatives via Board of Realtors, via the Chamber of Commerce, and others who have vested interest in the billions right now in Charleston, hedge funds to God knows whatever else, shadow investors, whoever. Charleston has changed dramatically in terms of this. So I think that we have to really be about our business and looking at the facts, that we have investors here that's not local, from Chicago, from Miami, from Los Angeles, from Vegas, everywhere, that want to come and do business in Charleston County. So we have to really look at this a little differently. Hopefully, a committee for Army Corps of Engineers to be put in place, a subcommittee. But DHEC and the Army Corps of Engineers said, look, this is what we're dealing with, these permit issues, because Herb Sass don't have much power in terms of what the Corps is going to do. I actually had a conversation with Mr. Boone, who's one of the people, well, Jeremy is actually the guy involved with this policy here, and I work with him right now on that issue. So all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant.
We have one more public hearing.
Oh, we do? Okay,
Yes,
one
sir.
more public hearing?
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing before final approval by council of an ordinance to further amend the agreement for a joint county industrial park by and between Charleston County and Colleton County.
We have one speaker, Anthony Hurling.
Mr. Hurling? He left.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we're back to our county council agenda, item number 3. You just did that one, right?
No, sir.
Okay, item number 3.
Well, that was the public hearing we just had.
Okay, that was a public hearing. Multi-county park amendments, ordinance, third reading.
An ordinance to further amend the agreement for a development of a joint county industrial park by and between Charleston County, South Carolina, and Colleton County, South Carolina, providing for the development of a jointly owned and operated industrial business park so as to update the status of certain property in Charleston County with respect to the joint county industrial park with the right to amend up to third reading. Mr. Boykin?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Mr. Kabrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody is absent. Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Werman? Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Ordinance passes third reading with 8 ayes and 1 absent.
Was that number 4, which we just did? Because this one's already a third.
Yes, sir, that's third reading. So this is a different amendment.
Okay, so we still need to
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next item, number 4, committee recommendations, first reading ordinance, multi-county park, request to adopt resolution. I have a request to adopt the resolution for multi-county park, moved by Mr. Pryor, seconded by Reverend Middleton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
And, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just first reading. An ordinance to provide for the reimbursement of allocations of revenue under the agreement for a development of a joint county industrial park by and between Charleston County, South Carolina, and Colleton County, South Carolina, providing for the development of a jointly owned and operated industrial business park.
Is there a
Chair.
vote on that one?
Move to approve items 5A through J.
Second.
Moved by Reverend Middleton, seconded by Mr. Boykin. Any questions about any of those particular items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, request to approve items 6A through G.
Moved by Reverend Middleton, seconded by Mr. Pryor. Any questions or discussion about any of those? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 7. Do we have a need for executive session? Ms.
Yes, sir. It's my understanding that there's a need for an executive session to discuss some contractual related matters.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, move to go in executive session.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Boykin and Ms. Honeycutt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Opposed? The ayes have it. Yes, sir.
before we go to executive session, can you allow council comments so these good folks can go home to workers who's not needed?
Hey, that is a great idea. Reverend Middleton, would you start off?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to all the members of County Council. Just want to say good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Darby?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Kaprowski?
I have a few brief things. I'd like to say that when we make decisions, we often should go look in person. I spent Friday with our engineer, who was excellent, and with the Highway 41 and the Laurel Hill Parkway extension, and I'd like to say it kind of changed my mind on it. To see there, Highway 41, the traffic is intense, nonstop. I think that what Kathy Landing said, it made sense. I don't think we need the Laurel Hill Parkway. That's my feeling. I'd like this to be on the record for that. I think you spend upwards of close to 30 million, take 20 acres. I said I'd be a fiscal conservative and a conservationist. I feel it fails on both of those levels. And I think there's much to preserve in the unique in the Phillips community. And I was under the impression that from everything I heard, that the Highway 41, what we were going to do was going to go through the Phillips community. I feel what the damage to the Phillips community was done when Highway 41 was created there. I'd like to see that we could do crossovers to make it safe. I think it's very unsafe to cross that road at most times. If we can incorporate whatever we do to build bridges or walkways or to make it safe to go from one end, and I would think if we're going to do this, we need to make this work. And I say this from personal experience. During Yugo, I met my in-laws from McClellanville on Highway 41, and that was a rural road. Right where that is, you can get off the road, there was no traffic. And I think that so much growth has happened on Highway 41 that my main concern is the safety of people there and getting off, because that's going to happen at some point. So to preserve the interior of the Phillips and do whatever we have to keep the unique nature of the community, but I don't think we need to take 20 acres away to go around convoluted to do that. So I just want to be on record. I listened and watched and changed my mind on it. And I'd also like to refer briefly to also the devil's in the details. I read Steve Bailey's column with great interest. Nobody wants to censor books, but as he said, some books, and I think we have to be careful not to sexualize our children. And the person who spoke gave us handouts, and I challenge anybody here on the board to read that. And what we have in the young adult thing is that it does sexualize children, and I stand that. I think she was correct. And again, it's not about censoring books. Nobody's asking to destroy the books or remove them, but to label them. And I challenge anybody here to read this, anybody on the board to read that and say that, we should be the adults here and we have no right to sexualize children. And I just ask people to not just go on emotions, but look what's in the books and draw your own conclusions. I know how I feel, and the other board members may feel differently, but respectfully come to your own decisions on that by looking what is there. You have great people that work in the libraries, and it's no excuse to say that's what the publishers do. These are our libraries, we pay for it, and we have ownership of it. So again, I just request people to actually look at it. And with regard to the last issue, you had some wonderful people on both sides, and apparently it's a great person that wants to change, and I understand that. I also understand all the other issues of people living there, so I thank each and every one of you that come and made an impact, and I listened very carefully to each one of the concerns, and I look forward to deliberating, so thank you all for coming.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Werman?
Mr. Chairman, the fact of the matter is, on the library issue, is that it is a separate body that has its own procedures for challenging designations of books. And quite frankly, to the extent that folks want to say they're not trying to censor anything, I don't know why adult stuff that's in the adult section is in this packet we received. What are you going to do if you're not going to knock it out of the library? Why is it in here? So to the extent folks want to engage in the process that has always existed to say, this book can be challenged and reviewed by the board and reviewed through that process, but I don't like the suggestion that we don't have folks on that board and on the library staff who are looking at this, and they're happy to, I know, reevaluate those decisions. Again, those processes exist, but I think it's a slippery slope, as any censorship type discussion always is, and I think we need to be really careful about it, especially when it's not really something that this council has the authority to even make action on. So would simply leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pryor?
I'm good, thank you.
Nothing for me tonight.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to address the comments made about the individual that was
hurt on Woodland Shores Road, and obviously that is a tragic incident. But tonight we did take action under item 5H to approve the award of contract on the Carroll Street Drainage Project, which is the first in a series of things that needs to take place in order to install the sidewalk in a very drainage-sensitive neighborhood. There's been a lot of work by our staff, which I greatly appreciate. We held a public meeting last week, heard from a lot of community members about the importance of this, and so that project is moving forward. In the meantime, we are, Reverend Middleton, addressing some other items that we might be able to do in that area to even better increase safety, but we feel like pedestrian access and the connectivity to Maybank Highway is really important. So we're moving forward with that, and I appreciate staff's involvement. Thank you.
Ms. Ham?
Nothing, thank you.
Yes, sir.
May I just ask one question, sir?
Yes, sir.
It may be somewhat rhetorical, but when are we going to stop decimating African American communities? When are we going to stop? I mean, since my youth, it has always been the African American community, it has always been the disadvantaged white communities. Always. And I just wonder, how much longer are we going to allow this, sir? I've said on countless times, the reason why I-26 is so curvaceous is because it went through every African-American community and went by the white communities. That's why it's so curvaceous. Because the white community is not going to be affected. The port was to be at Daniel Island. But the rich folk over says, no, we don't want it here. So what did the state do? Send it to the poor black folk over there. It's a matter of, the old saying is, mind over the matter. We don't mind because they don't matter. And time again, we come with the same process. I hadn't read the editorial. Perhaps I'll go back and read it. Perhaps this representative may be making good sense. But why is the Phillips community going to bear the brunt of the traffic and they are not the cause of the traffic? That's what I don't understand. I just don't understand that. So how long are we going to tolerate this as a government, as a body? Let fair be fair. Everybody should bear a brunt of the problem, not just a certain group of people or a certain demographic, everybody. And that's why I just don't understand. I mean, I get sorrowful, I get emotional, because I love this country. I believe in the creed of this country that all men are created equal. I believe that. Every evening I come here, I salute this flag. Because it says one nation. It doesn't say a black nation, a white nation. It says one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. So when are black communities going to receive justice? We don't get it. My community, Liberty Hill, you can tell it's a black community by just going to the railroad track, and once you get to the stoplight, now you realize the white community, you see the vast difference. It's always that, and I'm just sick and tired of it. When is America going to be America for all Americans? Time and time again, I got to deal with being an African American. When am I just going to be addressed as an American? When is that day going to come? So I'm sorry I didn't mean to preach a sermon, but time and time again, and this body's going to change his mind. Laurel Hill is not going to be affected. It's not. Because that's a rich area. But Phillips, they're going to bear the brunt of it. So it was just a rhetorical question, sir. When are the African Americans going to be stopped being disseminated? That's just a basic question, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby.
I believe that we've already voted on the plan for 41, so, I mean, it's only left up to the core now if they pass permit, so that won't come back to this body other than who we award the contract to.
Well, that's
The time to do that was back then, not now.
I hope it doesn't go through Mr. Pryor in terms of, because sometimes the core, they can get pressure too, sir.
Thank you. Let's move into executive session. Thank you very much. Everyone that needs to go, come on back. Hey, we
already got this on. We did it on anything, man. We did it right before the
be the shortest one you've ever seen. 1, 2, if we have a quorum, this is 5, 6.
Yep.
All right, we went to executive session. No decision.
All right, everybody, I'm good.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. You asked me about the rodeo champion.
Yeah, what is that?
So